Okay, here we go. Time for a real rant.
You're watching out for Daddy. Hey, that's my dad!
So, if you have been watching Aphrodite for the last few years, you know that I really want to change the way we talk about fatherhood, right? I want to change the way men think about fatherhood. I want to change the way everyone else thinks about fatherhood. And more than anything, I want fathers to change the way they think about fatherhood. Like, that is my big whole mission for Aphrodite. So, when I see an article like this from News24, I get a little bit upset. Just a little bit, just a tiny. No, that's a lie. I get massively upset because this article is just a dumpster fire of how not to talk about fatherhood in this country. I know what you're thinking. Like, what? A bad article on News24? I can't believe it. They're so known for their high levels of journalism. But the reality is, it's actually not News24's fault. It's the way we all talk about fatherhood and all of the assumptions that we have about fathers, especially black fathers, in South Africa. So let me tell you about some of the problems that I have with this article. Firstly, it's the fact that this is like the second line of the article, right there. Children living in South Africa live in mostly non-standard homes with only one biological parent. That term, non-standard, what does that even mean? Now, what they're trying to say is that most kids in this country don't live with their biological mom and their biological dad in the same home. What they're saying, though, is that that is supposed to be the standard. And when you use a word like standard, you're placing a value on stuff. You're saying that this box over here, this is the right way to do stuff, and everything outside of that box is the wrong way to do stuff. Now, who the hell decided that that was necessarily 100% the right way of doing stuff, and that everything else is wrong? And you can't even say that what they actually mean is that the majority of families have a biological mom and a biological dad in it, because the sentence itself says that most families aren't like that. So it's not a numbers game, it's a values game. And again, that means that someone or some group of people are telling us what a family is and isn't, and what a proper family should and shouldn't look like. And that makes me freaking angry. Because hands up if you grew up or are currently in what they would consider a standard family, where the biological mom and the biological dad care for their biological kids. I may have grown up in a family like that, but I'm certainly not in a family like that right now. And I would think that a lot of us have had those kinds of experiences. So how is that the standard? We need to change these terms. Take it away from putting value on things. We can't define what families are for other people. Long story short, saying that one thing is standard means that you're saying that everything else isn't standard, and you're saying therefore that one thing is better than the other thing. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to unpack there, right? Because you can have a biological dad who doesn't live in the same house as his children, who is attentive and present and engaged and a really good dad. And at the same time, you can have a biological dad who lives in the same house as his kids and is none of those things. Now, who's the better dad? You see why it's a problem to put value onto certain kinds of structures? Okay, I'm getting worked up and I haven't even got to the second big problem I have with this article. Here it is. It doesn't give any context to anything that it's saying. So yeah, you could say that the majority of kids in this country don't live in the same home as their biological dad, but what does that actually mean? Does it mean that they have no father figure in their home? Does it mean that you're discounting the work that stepdads do and uncles and grandparents and other men in the community that come in and behave as the father figure? The other crazy thing you're doing is discounting every adoptive story. So for one of my kids, the biological kid, he's growing up in the standard model of a family. And for my other kid, the adopted child, he isn't growing in the standard model of a family because of the madness of the study. And then they go on to compare black kids and white kids and colored kids and Indian kids and what percentages of them are living with their biological fathers. And they naively give no context. They don't talk about the fact that a lot of black workers currently and historically have had to go across provinces to find work. That doesn't mean that they're a bad dad. That doesn't mean that they're not engaged. That doesn't mean that they aren't doing whatever they can to care for their kids. What that means is that they have to make a difficult choice of either staying with their kids and watching their kids go hungry, or going away and being able to afford to feed their kids and school their kids and care for their families. They don't talk about that hard decision that black fathers have in this country. And they also very helpfully forget to mention the fact that In South Africa and globally, there is a narrative that black men are bad fathers, that black and brown men don't want to be good dads, despite the fact that all the studies show that the majority of black and brown men would like to be good dads if societal forces allowed them to be. You see what I mean? You can't just throw out numbers like only 31% of black kids live with their dads, while 80% of white kids live with their dads, without giving context to the social situation that has informed those numbers. The final problem I have with this piece of journalism is that it doesn't give any flip side to the coin. It doesn't look at organizations that are trying to improve the situation. It doesn't look at how we as individuals can help fix the situation. It doesn't look at what should be done to fix the problem. It's just going, black men are bad dads. Whoa, black men are absent fathers. And that's it. That's all it does. Without any context, without any hope, without any solutions, it just causes issues. Now look, this is the part of the video where I put a big caveat in, right? Maybe a couple of caveats. We'll see how it goes. Number one, I'm not denying that there's a fatherhood problem in South Africa. There clearly is, and Aphrodite wouldn't exist if there wasn't a problem. Number two, if you have had a bad experience with a father, whether it's your own father or the father of your children or the guy in the community that kind of behaves like that, whatever that is, if you've had that bad experience and you want to talk about it and you want to slam on dads as an individual, go for it. It would be arrogant for me to tell you that you cannot talk about your experiences in that way. And I would never do so. I hope I never do so. If I do that, please call me out on it. But if you're a brand or a newspaper or an organization or an activist or anyone who wants to try and find a solution, who sees this as a problem and wants to be active in fixing that problem and making it better, this kind of stuff does not help. All this kind of thing does is makes a complex problem even murkier and even tougher for people like me to engage with. If you are a new dad and you read something like this, then the bar is lowered. If you are someone who maybe doesn't think fatherhood is important and you read something like this, then you're going to be like, yeah, all my suspicions are confirmed. There's nothing about this that is encouraging and hopeful and will push dads to be better, which is what Aphrodite is all about. So look, I know whenever I do rants like this, there's a little bit of pushback, which I welcome. If you disagree with me with anything I've said, please engage me with it. You can either do it publicly or you can send me an email at aphroditect@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and we can have it back and forth. I'm happy to have those engagements because I think the more we talk about this, the more all of our minds can be informed and open up by it, including mine. The other thing is, if you are someone who's like, I am not one of these dads. I am an engaged father. I might not live with my biological kids, or maybe I do. I don't know. I don't know your story. But if you're someone who wants to be a present and engaged dad, and you want a community of dads who are exactly like you, who are all trying to be better, join the Fatherhood Discord that I started a couple of months ago. It is great. There's some great dads on there that I really enjoy talking to. Join there. It's always a good time. But as always, thanks so much for watching. I will chat to you soon, hopefully about something less ranty and a bit more fun. Aphrodite out.
You're watching Aphrodite. Hey, that's my dad.